swag, the patterns are swell.
Hello all you carpet munchers of the Speakonia community, my name is Charlotte Pickles II in command of the lesbian group The Betty Bunch, and today I am going to be explaining my recent absence over the last several years before eventually reuniting with my fellow vagina vixens. But to explain this correctly, I'll have to go back to the very beginning. As you may know, I was first introduced in the Speakonia community during the unestablished war of 2011, and was to serve as a female equivalent to my homosexual ex-husband Drew Pickles, who formed his own Speakonia group The Barney Bunch. But by 2012 I was confronted by my arch-nemesis, an AIDS-ridden dyke by the name of Cindy Bear, who saw my overwhelming swellosity as a lesbian to be a threat to her reputation. So without warning, that southern snob of a bear ambushed me and I was challenged to a foot battle, where Cindy raped me to death after that cheating bitch affected me with AIDS. Since then I've been burning in hell along with some other unestablished characters in the Speakonia community, including my bisexual daughter Angelica Pickles, who I hear has recently joined some SJW group called the Atacuma Enjaro Magi Clan. From what I heard, my untimely death at the hands of Cindy left my fellow crackers in the Betty Bunch in an uproar. And you can bet your last drop of pussy juice that they did not take this insult sitting down on their vaginas, and quickly made plans to avenge my death against that bimbo Bruin. As such, my loyal legion of carpet cleaners set a trap for Cindy and her at the time newly formed group the AIDS Avengers by using Kim Jong-un's wife Risolju as bait to lure them in. Once the trap was snared, a handful of the newest set of Betty Bunch members came in with a Panzer tank fresh from one of their latest pornos, and gave Cindy and her HIV-positive hussies a taste of sexual justice. Yes, that was satisfying, ha ha ha. But despite Cindy frying her AIDS-infested snatch in the fourth circle of hell, she manages to keep building up the AIDS Avengers, and even with members coming and going, the group struggles to be relevant to this very day. During my absence, the position of second in command to the Betty Bunch was filled in by Diddy Pickles, the ex-wife of my podophiliac brother-in-law, who was at the time forming his own Speakonia group, the Ketchum Clan. Since that time the Betty Bunch has grown exponentially to the point where there were branches that represent every corner of the world. I knew I'd been out of the game for a while when I noticed that there was even a subdivision for bisexual footsters who prefer a more feminine breakfast of pancakes, with some erg sausage on the side, but I'm not complaining. Like any good businesswoman, I'm always open to new ideas, ha ha ha. Anyways, I was about to be resurrected by the Betty Bunch sometime after the events of the secret missing episode of Wackaville, when my fellow crackers confiscated a device called the Dead Reanimator from some puny Australian dwarf. I think his name was Groenberg or something. But before they could go ahead with resurrecting me, a rumor was spread that I was already brought back to life by Betty's own arch-nemesis Rita Repulsa, and made me a member of her at the time newly formed group the Repulsa Republic. I want to state for the record that the one Rita Repulsa actually revived was the all-grown-up version of me who was previously killed off by my ex-husband. But maybe he'll explain that sometime when he makes his own explain video. But nevertheless, the Betty Bunch thought that I had turned over to the dark side, and I was soon forgotten about and left in hell to burn, but not for long, ha ha ha, in the context of a double dildo, long. Apparently some hotshot Australian pimp rookie by the name of Danny Dingo had started a bitter rivalry with the self-proclaimed sickest fuck in the universe Yogi Bear, another one of Drew's arch-competitors who came about during the unestablished war. But from what I understand, during the events of the secret missing episode of Blinky Bill, Yogi was denied satisfaction when Drew and his Barney Bunch raped the title character until his tight ass was as loose as my aforementioned in-betweener daughter when she is flirting with an older man or woman. And so, like the pube muppet, Yogi threw an epic tantrum and brutally raped Danny to death before leaving his furry brothel establishment. I actually got to meet this jingo in hell, and he told me that it was, you guessed it, my ex and his faggot followers who were responsible for making him lose the edge he needed to fight off Yogi in the first place. Well, I can buy that. It's not the first time Drew did something to throw somebody off their game with a 12-way gangbang. But surprisingly enough, he did not stay in hell long, as a certain Australian government official who so happened to be a direct supporter of Danny and his brothel service, not to mention being a regular client at said establishment, pulled a lot of strings as well as tax dollars to bring Danny back from the dead. And it didn't take long for him to form a team of powerhouse pimps to take out Yogi and his entire group, the Hanna-Barbera Bunch. The bitter rivalry between these two factions led to the comeback of the All-Star Laugh Olympics, in where Danny Dingo and Yogi Bear would have their final showdown. And at this point you're all probably asking yourselves, what does any of this have to do with yours truly reuniting with the Betty Bunch? Well, I'll tell you. In addition to the Danny Dontai being the newest team to compete in the games, another recent Betty Bunch member, a kitty cracker named Angora, was added on as a new commentator to counterbalance the biased brouhaha spouted from two of Yogi's obvious henchmen. Having such a big event meant that there would be sponsors from several Speakonia groups and organizations to promote the Laugh Olympics, and since the Betty Bunch would obviously be one of those sponsors, I got me an idea. So I quickly got on the phone with my faithful assistant Jonathan Kraskell and had him register my company Merge Corp to be one of the sponsors to the games. That way I could get close enough to the Betty Bunch and let them know that I did not join up with Rita's Piss and group and have been in hell this whole time. Now you know why I keep that man around. He's always useful for something. So after the defeat of Yogi Bear at the hands of Danny Dingo, the Betty Bunch took a quick trip to Jellystone Park, now under the ownership of Danny's newest member, and got the Danny Don'tie's head inventor Wagonit to fire up the dead reanimator one last time to bring me back to life. Yes, it took a bitch of a long time, but finally I was reunited with my fellow Betty Bunch crackers. Since I've been brought back, I've noticed how much has changed in the Speakonia community. All the different groups that have been formed and how many allies the Betty Bunch have among them, even forming a truce with Drew and his Barney Bunch in order to take out our common enemies. Not to mention all the badass pimping rackets and crime-fighting liberation groups who have become major allies against all the anti-everything and butt-hurt-spreading organizations that have popped up in the community during my absence. I even took the time to experience the recent phenomenon known as podophilia, the love of sexy, smooth-looking bare feet that has even caught the attention of my fellow clit chompers. And let me tell you, having spent all that time in hell standing knee-deep in molten rock getting pampered by the footster members of our group was sweeter than any business merger or transaction I have ever made. Yes. Those of you who are fans of DJ Swell 69's videos knows that I recently made my comeback appearance in a Goes To video where we take a trip to the Emoji Movie and make that film sweller, if that's even possible. For lol, so epic it should be considered crushing the competition. And speaking of which, if you're out there Rita Repulsa, you and your League of Dyke Deviants better be on the lookout, cause you're officially on my shit list for making my fellow fanny bandits think that I was a traitor and keeping me in that literate hellhole for so long. Same goes to my own nemesis Cindy Bear for sending me to that fire pit in the first place. And if she knows what's good for her, she'll stay in hell herself with what little pussy she has, lest she suffer my unholy wrath if she ever dares to come back among the living. But yes folks, it's been quite a ride for yours truly. I've been to hell and back, through the best and worst of times, and I can't wait to see what new challenges and great journeys await me in this bold new community. Why, I even upgraded my old cell phone so that it works just like the newest models, complete with porno streaming apps, and yes, this includes the Foot Fappers hotline. Like I said before, a good businesswoman knows when to evolve with the times in order to stay relevant. Anyways, thanks for listening to this little explanation, and be sure to stay tuned to yours truly and the rest of the Betty Bunch, as we continue to make things swell for lesbians everywhere. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got to meet up with some of my fellow cabbage munchers. I just received a text that a handful of the teenage tuna tuggers of our group are taking a trip to rate the female cast members of that new Saved by the Bell reboot series, and want yours truly to accompany them on said rate journey to pose as a school teacher to lure said female cast into a false sense of security. So you bet your sweet double dildos that I'm all over that shit. See you later all you swell sexy dykes, and remember that the Betty Bunch is always masturbating to you. Peace out.
The end!
Save the planet from disaster. Spinning through a world in motion. Take it all the way.